And I'm delighted to say that joining me in the studio is the Honorary President of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Nigel, what do you make of this result?
So, what has been said in the last few months is that Reform is a party in theory. It gets, national polling of 8, 9, 10%, 12%, whatever it is. But in by-elections, it always underperforms. And to date, it always has. Kingswood is the first election in which we've actually got up with a national vote share. 10.35%. Of course, Jacob would say bigger than the difference between the Conservatives and Labour, which it was. But the truth is, people voting Reform would not vote Conservative anyway. They are so upset, they feel so betrayed with the Conservatives since 2019. And, it's a funny thing, and I guess not many viewers will get this. I have led 30 by-elections. 30. 31, actually, as UKIP leader. And we got better and better at it as the years...
You were their first candidate.
I stood in a by-election 30 years ago. You weren't even born.
I wasn't.
30 in 1994.
Yeah.
I stood in Eastleigh.
Just before I was born.
Well, only just, I know. You're getting on too.
Yeah.
But so I stood 30 years ago in a by-election. I got 1,000 votes. I mean, actually, it was a pretty amazing achievement, really, given where we were. Politics in by-elections is as much about perspiration as inspiration. It's about party machine. And the one thing that Reform has not got, that UKIP did have 10 years ago, is a big machine. Rupert Lowe, standing in Kingswood, yes, he had 20 or 30 people helping him, but it literally was a threadbare operation with zero data compared to the Conservatives, who know how your granddad voted, and Labour as well. And the fact that he's managed to get a vote up with national vote share shows you something very sexy is going on in British politics.
Very sexy words I'm not sure I would have heard you, Nigel Farage, say, but there we go. I wonder, we talk about the big parties, the established parties, and you're right to talk about the fact that running multiple elections, you build up data. You know where your voters are, and then crucially in by-elections, turn out to be lower turnout elections often. You turn your people out. Has the Reform Party been using Brexit Party data? I suppose it's the same entity. Was there much Brexit Party data?
The truth is that the Brexit Party was launched on the 12th of April 2019. It was an air war. We were an air war party.
Not a ground war.
No, there was no time to do it. To build up the kind of volunteer army base. I called UKIP the People's Army. It was a long time ago. It's gone. So even in the European elections, do we have data? Yes. Do we have 150,000 supporters on a database? Yes, we do. But do we have data going back generations? No, we don't. And that makes a hell of a difference. Look, that result shows you something very big, sexy as I called it, is going on. But you know what?
Yeah.
The most significant result of Kingswood is the Lib Dems.
Losing their deposit.
This is Gloucestershire. This is the kind of turf in which the Lib Dems would have expected a very solid by-election result. The fact they got 3.5% and lost their deposit, it's very interesting. My goodness me, isn't Rishi lucky? If the Lib Dems had a good leader, the Tories would be in huge trouble, not just in the north, in the Red Wall, but in the south as well.
Could you not say that we're seeing perhaps a reverse of the politics that we saw in the 1980s. The 1980s, there was a big split on the left of politics between the Liberal SDP alliance and the Labour Party. It seems that there's been this coalescing around perhaps a more centrist Labour Party, at least that's the image they want to project, and unarguably a split on the right.
No, there's no right. The Conservative Party is not right. In 14 years of Conservative government, the whole agenda has shifted ever leftwards. This is a Conservative Party of big state, high tax, mass immigration. This is not a right-wing Conservative Party. It's not even centre-right. It's actually just to the left of the political spectrum. There is now a massive gap on the moderate, genuine, sensible, grown-up centre-right of British politics. And what you've seen in Kingswood and what you will see in Wellingborough in an hour's time is that gap is beginning to be filled.
Rishi Sunak would tell you he was a Thatcherite.
Oh, right.
Rishi Sunak would say that he's trying to get this Rwanda scheme off the ground. He would say he cut national insurance.
No, I'm sorry. 5 pledges, right? Reduced inflation. Yes, inflation's down. Do you know why? because grow the economy, pledge 3, is now a complete catastrophe because we're in recession. Cutting the debt, our national debt's never been higher in our history. It's £110 billion repayments every year. Number 4, cutting NHS waiting lists. It's still over 7 million. Stop the boats. He's telling us that 30,000 young males coming last year is somehow a victory. He's the best spinner since Blair. None of it's sincere, none of it's genuine, and you know what? He's not even recognisable in terms of policy as a Conservative.
Let's zoom back to these by-elections, because as the leader of UKIP was originally losing deposits at the start of the 2010s. How did it build up through those early by-elections to a point where you actually won 2 by-elections?
I remember winning a deposit in Wigan in about 2006. Wow. And we would lose deposit after deposit after deposit. In 2010, I'd been leader of the party until 2009. I stepped down for a year. I said, right, we're going to do this properly. And you have to build a machine. You have to get a lot of volunteers in. And the incentive, of course, in those days was come and have a drink with Nigel. I didn't have a drink with all of them, but you need to get bodies. You need data. If you're a punter living in a by-election seat, you will have 150 leaflets, 30 leaflets through your door. You're so hacked off with the whole thing. To get people out on the day to vote, you've got to knock on the door and have personal persuasion. You need a machine. I built a machine. I raised money for each by-election. I got experts in who understood polling, focus grouping. I made it a massive, massive enterprise. And in 2011, in the Barnsley by-election, we came second. And we never, ever came less than second in any other by-election during my leadership. It doesn't happen overnight. Richard Tice has saved reform.
Because a lot of people say that Richard Tice doesn't have the name recognition you do.
Right.
Some people say he doesn't have the charisma you do. And a lot of people say, well, my goodness, if Reform's getting 10% here, if Nigel was leading it, could be getting 20.
Well, that may be true. It may not be true. What I will say for Richard is he kept that party going, much of it out of his own pocket. I mean, he's put an astonishing amount of money, of his own money, in to keeping that vehicle going during a time when people said, oh no, Brexit's done, we don't need reform. And now it's coming into his own. So I have the utmost admiration for Richard.
It could be the case that in November, there's a general election in this country and another election just across the Atlantic, a presidential election in the United States. Yeah. Be honest now, which are you more interested in? Oh,
well, look, both. I mean, it's a very unfair question. Of course, I want the Donald to win. Whatever his flaws may be, whatever his excesses. I mean, the NATO speech is classic of Donald. Excessive and yet pushing people in the right direction. The Western world needs leadership, needs strength. Otherwise, these bully boys are going to walk all over us. But of course, I'm British, I'm English, and I want to see what happens here. Tom, look, I am enjoying my life at GB News. I'm the honorary president of Reform. I have no executive role in the party. Everyone speculates, will I come back as leader? I might do, I might not, I don't know. My big fear would be to come back and get 5 million votes and 3 seats. If I see a really historic opportunity to go in and to win a large number of seats and to replace the Conservative Party, well, I'll probably do it, but I'm not sure yet.
Goodness me, cards close to your chest. Nigel Farage, thank you so much for joining us and talking us through those enormous issues on this big night in British politics.